So, again, hello, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Um, could I ask you what your name is? Is it
Jeff.
Jeff? Jeff. What rank are you currently?
I'm in Silver 3 right now, but I was Gold 5 last season. So
Okay. Um, what role do you main?
ADC.
Okay, then it's a bit better because I sort of also main ADC this season. So I think it would be a little bit easier to help you. Is there anything that you specifically would want me to take a look at, or that
I'm
you
not,
feel like you have a problem with?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not playing as well as last season, and I'm not entirely sure why. So,
How many games have you played this season?
oh, around 40, 50-ish.
40, 50-ish. And do you mind sharing what your win percentage ratio is?
It's not very good right now. I think I've won like 20 and lost 28, so it's pretty.
Oh, so it's below 50. Okay.
Uh,
Okay, that probably means that you done something during preseason, which hasn't been too good. Is this then so is this your place? Is this a ranked game or is it a normal game?
it was a ranked game.
Okay, brilliant, good. So let's see here. So you are playing Sivir, is that correct?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't really cut out the beginning part.
Oh no, it's cool. I can just skip it. Is it lagging for you?
No.
Okay, brilliant. So, okay, before we start, so let's actually be in the loading screen for this. Okay, so in the loading screen, right? What do you usually do during the loading screen?
Sometimes I check those sites like, what is it called? Lol Nexus.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I see what kind of runes and masteries the enemy ADC has and what the support has.
Okay, that's a good point. What else do you do?
That's usually it. Sometimes I'll grab water or something.
Okay. I would give you a suggestion, right? And obviously checking the runes and stuff is important, but normally they go pretty standard runes and stuff. So normally you don't get that much information from it. What you can actually get a lot of information from is seeing what type of bot lane comp they are running and what type of bot lane comp you're running, right? So in this case you're running a Sivir Blitzcrank bot lane, right? And they are playing a Vayne Tark bot lane. I mean, both of you have the same summoners. So, you know, before you actually start the game and go into laning phase, like, have you ever thought about, like, okay, who do you think has advantage in the laning phase and who has the better scaling?
Usually, yeah. I think usually if they have the better advantage, I try to farm, and if we have the advantage, I try to push a little bit.
So who do you think has the better advantage in this case?
I think we did.
You think you did, and why?
Because Tarek's stun, I can block with my spell shield, and if Blitzcrank pulls Vayne, they can't really counterplay too much.
Okay, so that's a very good analysis. In this case, right, you should be pretty good for the lane simply because you can block Tarek's stun, which renders him useless, right? And Vayne is very weak in the laning phase. So basically, she outscales you, but you have a better laning phase. The problem with that is also that they are running a Shaco. So a Shaco is generally a pretty heavy ganker. There are some Shakos which basically just farm, but it's a lot rarer, right? And so when you play the lane, it is incredibly important that you try to keep track of where Shaco is, so you know if you can be aggressive or not. Okay, just, you know, some stuff to think of. And since both of your top laners are running TP, basically if one of them tries to TP bot lane for a gank, the other one can respond with a TP, right? However, what you have to also remember is that since they're gonna run a Pantheon mid probably, it is a high chance that you might get ganked post double 6. In that case, you will probably have to try to play pretty passively level 6 after you see the Pantheon is level 6, unless you see him on the map all the time. Okay. So this game, for example, what I would think is just, you know, you have the early laning phase advantage. However, you can get easily punished if you push the lane too hard, or if you try to extend the lane too hard, simply because of all the ways that they can gank your lane. So playing a bit more passively or trying to let the creep wave push towards you is not a bad choice in this case. Okay? Let's see. Okay, so while we are actually waiting for the game to start, so I noticed that you are standing at the bot lane turret. Generally, I'd say that you should never, as a laner, right? You should never stand at your turret before laning phase. Do you know why?
So because they can invade, I think, right?
Yeah. So basically, for example, right now, right, you see that your team is completely clumped here in the middle. So Cassian is at hit turret, Diana's is at top lane turret, and you are bot lane turret, right? Right now, if the enemy team with a Taric, right, so they have pretty good CC, level 1. They have a Shaco, but they could easily 4-man invade. If they were to walk through, you see this tribe rush down here? They walk into the red buff and walk around. Your team would get completely blanked out, right? They would have no vision of this. So considering it's 53 seconds into the game, if they were actually just rushing to invade right here, they will probably be somewhere, I'd say, around this area right here. It makes your team extremely susceptible to ganks if you stay by your turret early game. And, you know, it might not matter in some cases, but for example, out of 10 games, if they decide to invade like 2 games, so 20% of the time, right? Just you being here and getting the vision on them and telling your team to fall back if they do decide to invade, you know, will allow you, for example, not to give up first blood or not to pop a summoner, and it will also allow you, to increase your win percentage ratio. So that's one thing to think of, right? You're actually, like, before 155, so when the red buff, when the minions spawn, when the creep in the jungle spawn, it is important that you keep track of everything in your jungle, because if they invade you, since all 3 of the solo laners are standing at the turret, you're basically screwing over your jungle if he gets invaded. So that's something to think of. Your positioning before minions and the actual monster spawn to prevent early ganks. Let's see here. And also, what masteries and runes are you running?
I think 2190 for the masteries, and I can't remember off the top of my head what my runes are.
Do you have attack speed, Quint?
I think I have attack speed, some attack speed blues, maybe.
Okay, so for runes, right? Everybody has different preferences for how they want to play ADC, and it's every ADC has a different rune page. For example, Ezreal has a different rune page from, for example, Lucian, right? What I would probably recommend for the standard ones is going Quint's attack speed. So 2 of them, one flat AD Quint, flat AD reds, armor yellows, and flat MR blues. Only run magic regen, maybe cooldown, on your blues if there's a specific reason for why you do it. So for example, Ezreal, right, you could maybe run 4 or 5 mana regen if you really wanted to, but generally going for the 9 MR in blues is very good, simply because of the fact that pretty much every support in the game, every support in the game is actually a AP support. So having extra AP resistance is very good. And some ADs also have AP, so for example like Corki, so you want that flat MR to survive the early game better and to be able to trade. It's because runes actually affect the game a lot, and you want to sort of maximize any advantage you can have coming into the game. So for example, if you have different do you know how many rune pages you have?
7.
Okay, so you probably have one for mid lane and one for jungle and one for top too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that sort of limits your options, right? But you know, try to set up like try to basically I only play with one rune page, which was the one I described to you earlier. But you know, if you like to play sort of like a niche AD carry, so like I don't know, a non-meta AD carry, you could try to set up a specific rune page for them, or against a sort of like an all-in comp, like a Leona bot lane, or maybe like a Janna bot lane, having two different kinds of rune pages for, depending on what kind of opposition in the bot lane you're playing against. But you know, there are obviously many pros who have posted their runes and masteries and all that stuff. Take a look at that, because it actually, you know, as I said, like, it's important thing when you climb in elo, right, is that you get every advantage that you can and you hard press that advantage. So all of these kind of early things, so you know, checking in the champion select, checking the champion select firstly, checking it in the loading screen, before minions spawn, your positioning. All of these might not have like a direct impact on what happens every single game, but if you play, let's say, like 100 games, I promise you that out of these 100 games, just doing those 3 things will probably influence maybe 20 to 25 games in a subtle manner. Like, it might allow you to win 5 more games simply because you're avoiding early invades. It also might allow you to win trades and think about more, you know, what your win conditions are. So those small things can actually improve your win ratio by quite a lot if you know, you consciously think of them. Let's see here. Okay. Do you, since I'm not sure how it is in so like for example in silver, have you ever thought about taking Grumps or Crux?
I don't really try to do that because I don't know if my supports know how to, like, what is it called? Switch aggro.
Okay.
Or whatever.
So I'm assuming, right, that most junglers start near bot lane.
Yeah.
So for example, if you're red side, you know, they start on the Grump, and if they're blue side, they start on the Crux. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Actually, for example, right here, this Blitzcrank, he's helping Maokai with Wraith, right?
Yeah.
This is really bad. This is it's really, really bad. Do you know why it's really bad?
Because I'm alone in the bot lane, right?
It's not only that. Okay, so for early game bot lane, so I would say pre 6, right? So level 5, right? Before level 6, what is the most important timing in bot lane?
I'm not sure.
So the most important timing in bot lane, right, in my opinion, is the level 2. The level 2, when played correctly, can completely snowball a lane. The level 2 timing is the most important laning phase advantage in bot lane, simply because you having 2 extra spells on your side compared to theirs allows you to pretty much win any kind of trade. Like, it's very, very, very rare that a level 2 bot lane loses versus a level 1 bot lane. You have to mess up really badly to lose that trade, right? If Blitzcrank starts over here then with the beakers, whatever you call them now, he's gonna be in lane and he's gonna miss at least, I'd say, 1 or 2 melee creeps, right? That means that he won't actually hit level 2 at the same timing as you. And if the enemy bot lane, right, both of them are here, firstly, you have to play passive, right? So you get zoned, and also you will miss the level 2 timing bot lane. And a lot of times that can actually completely snowball a lane. So right now, you know, Maokai, when he says he wants to take these beakers, right, you should tell him either to go for the Grump and get Diana to help him, or he takes the Crocs and you help him, right? Starting Beakers is pretty bad simply because of how much damage they do early game. And you know, smiting Beakers doesn't give you anything. Do you know the smiting buffs? So,
Yeah, it gives you that vision thing, right?
yeah. Do you know what you get from Gromp and Crocs then?
Gromp is like the Thornmail and Krugs is the heavy hands with the stun.
Yeah, exactly. Both of them actually help you a lot in the jungle. And if you smite the Beakers, right, you get a... So it detects wards, right? But nobody puts down wards in your jungle level 2 minutes into the game. Like, you won't ever need that. So it's important, you know, to tell your jungler if he's doing something incredibly stupid, right? To start either Gromps or Crocs. And for example, if he was to start Gromp, you should take Crocs level 1. So what I would, so this is something you should actually think a lot about, especially in lower elos, is that how you want to play out your level 1, right? So it is important that you firstly you spot for your jungle. But another important thing is to think of how do you want to play out level 1. So there are different kinds of things you can do, right? One of them would be that you take the Gromp or the Crocs yourself, right? So you get the early experience. Another one is you help your jungler. Another one is that you directly push your lane instead of trying to do the jungle creep instead. And the last one is that you go and try to fuck up their jungle, right? I would probably recommend that if the jungler starts from the opposite side of the bot lane, so you know they start, for example, in this case they start Gromp instead of Crocs, you either have to take Crocs or you have to go and interrupt the enemy team. And this is simply because hitting an early level 2, if you do it correctly, is a really important advantage. And you know, by doing these two camps, it allows. So there are two. Do you know that you can either split XP on the Gromp, or you can take the full XP? Do you know that?
Yeah.
Do you know what happens if you take the full XP?
You get a level 2 immediately, right?
Yeah. And do you know what happens if you split XP?
It's like 2 or 3 minions once you get to lane to get to. Or
yeah, I think it's so generally if you take the one of the camps, you'll probably miss 2 melee minions, or maybe 1, and it will probably take you that wave to get to level 2. So it's important, you know, you keep track of your XP bar. But this is like, you might not feel that it's a big thing, but if you play it out correctly, it is. I can almost guarantee you that just by doing like either interrupting or doing the Crocs level 1 will increase your win percent ratio by, you know, I'd say like 2% or 3% or something like that. This is simply because you get to punish the enemy laner much earlier, and you get to snowball your lane, which is the #1 important thing in solo queue. It's crushing your lane and snowballing. So in this case, you know, this Blitzcrank and Maokai thing is actually really bad. And you know, if you see your teammates doing something stupid, you should tell your teammates that they shouldn't do it. Because if they don't listen to you, right, then it's not your fault. But you sort of have the responsibility to tell them if they're doing something stupid to increase your win percent ratio. Because you know, you share the same fate if you're on the same team. So if they do something stupid, it will negatively impact you, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually quite important. So you know, when you take the Crocs and the Gromp, right, it's actually incredibly simple. So what you do is if you take the Crocs, right, you take the small one. So you kill the small one first. You focus the small one. So it doesn't matter actually who takes the last hit on the small one. So it can be the support, it can be you. For the big one, you have then the AD carry should be the one who takes the big one, simply because of the extra gold it gives and the extra health regen. So what happens is usually the AD carry tanks 2 or 3 hits, never more. Never ever more than 3 hits from the monster camp, and the support should tank the rest, and they can use a potion. The reason why you never tank more than 3 hits is because you will lose way too much HP. Since you do get some regen from killing the big one, right? So it's not that big of a problem. But if you take more than 3 hits, you will be at a disadvantage in lane, and then it won't be worth it because you've lost too much HP. So I'd say 2 or maybe 3 hits, never more than that. Then you have to walk behind your support if he's not willing to tank it. You know, in the beginning of the game, right? Just type out if you want to take the Krugs or the Grump, just type out like, this is how you do it. Cause don't expect your support to know how to do it. Just tell him, cause it's quite simple. Just say AD carry tanks 2 hits. They can tank the first 2 hits. That's fine. The support tanks the rest and pops a potion. That's how you do it. And the support has to be close to the Grump to get the experience. If he walks away, then you will get the solo experience of the big one, which you don't want. I would probably recommend you to share the experience on all AD carries except for maybe like Lucian. You know, like I'd probably say like 99% of the time you want to share the experience with your bot lane. But just because the support is quite useful level 2 due to the abilities. Okay?
Okay.
Just something else to think of. So let's see here. Okay. And this is what I meant with both of them will be bot lane level 1 compared to you. So in this case, right, you start in Q. Do you play Sivir a lot?
Yeah, I play a lot of Sever.
Do you always start Q?
Sometimes I start W if I want to push.
Okay, so right, in this case, because you're alone bot lane, it automatically means that you can't push the lane. Because if you do push the lane, there's a high chance that you will get caught out by Taric if he levels stunned level 1, which he probably did. Because you see, he doesn't have the... When he levels up his W, he will have like shards around him. So this means he hasn't leveled W yet. Very, very few Tarics level heal first, so he probably has leveled stun first, right? This means that if you walk too far up and he stuns you and Vayne auto attacks you, you will get chunked out for no reason. In this case scenario then, I would probably start at E, or I probably wouldn't have started anything right now. And so basically, if Taric runs up to you a lot and tries to pressure you really heavily, you start E, so you can spell shield the stun. If he doesn't really do anything, then you can start W. But I probably would still not recommend you to use W or Q, simply because of the fact that you don't want to push the lane and deny your support more XP than he's already gonna lose. Starting Q on Sivir is generally not that good, because Q level 1 doesn't do a lot of damage, and also it's mana intensive. So you're gonna lose a lot of mana for throwing out a boomerang, which is basically 2 of your auto attacks, right? But if you auto attack and then reset your auto attack with W, you will pretty much gain the same damage as Q. So starting Q level 1 is probably not that efficient. You either want to start W. I'd say start W like 90% of the time, so you can push up your lane and get that early level 2. But in this case, starting E wouldn't be such a bad choice either, simply because of the presence of Taric stun. You know, if they had like a Janna, right, you probably don't need to start E. If you have a Soraka, you don't need to start E either. But because they have a lockdown CC level 1, starting E is not such a bad choice. So let's see here what happens. So for example right now, so Blitzcrank is still over red buff, right? You see that Taric is behind the creep waves, right? Do you think that's a good choice? Like if you were playing Taric right now, what would you do?
I'd probably pressure a little more than that.
Exactly. So let's say hypothetically, right? Can you see my mouse here?
Yeah.
Okay. let's say Tarek actually walks up right here towards this side, or he walks into the brush, it doesn't matter which one, and then he just walks up right next to you. What would you do then? What would you have to do?
I'd keep my distance.
Exactly. That means that you actually get zoned off of this creep. So if Tarek, right, just walks up to you, literally, and kills you, or well, stuns you, or whatever, he applies pressure, and Vayne will follow up, right? And then you will get zoned from this experience. Getting zoned from early experience, especially the melee wave, is absolutely devastating, right? And in this case, you know, because it's well, silver, you know, they might not punish you for this, punish you for being alone, but you know, once you climb to maybe like plat, I'd say they will start doing this, and basically by just having Blitzcrank go up top to help, and you know, if they walk up and you get zoned, you've basically lost your lane 2 minutes into the game. Do you sort of see how one thing snowballs into the other?
Yeah.
So this is why playing bot lane is actually like early game. You know, you think, right, it's not that much to think of, but when you play bot lane early game, it is actually incredibly important to think of what you do early game, even before the creep waves meet. Like, all the decisions that you can take will impact the game heavily. So that's why it's actually important that you tell your support, you know, if you see him up here doing something, helping, you have to tell him like, no, you can't do that because you will get zoned off. So in this case, it doesn't really matter that much because they're not trying to punish you. But you know, since you obviously want to climb the ladder and you want to, you know, achieve gold, plat, diamond, masters, I don't know what your goal is this season, you know, these are things that will, like, if these two players were, let's say, like plat, diamond, they would punish you extremely hard right now and zone you off for at least the first CS of the wave, and then you would always be one level behind. So it's not only that you actually hit level 2 afterwards, but you actually hit level 6 afterwards too, right? And that's a huge thing in a bot lane. So actually, even before the laning phase has started, you've sort of already lost the lane, and this is just because of the decision making early game. Another thing that you can think of, actually, so you know, before once you see the enemy bot lane, is what has the other jungler done? Do you sort of get what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for example, if the enemy bot lane, right, hadn't showed up still, and probably will show up in like 6 or 7 seconds, and one of them had lost HP, that means that they've taken the grump. Generally, because you know, it's a Shaco, he doesn't need a pull. It's a bit more difficult to say which buff he started because you see both solo laners right here. However, normally, you know, if they play any kind of other jungler who needs help with the early camp, you can basically tell if he's starting from red side or if he's starting from blue side. And this is actually important because the level 3 to level 4 minute, that's when the jungler usually makes his first gank. So if he starts from this side, you know, the red side, you have to put a ward down at 3 to 4 minutes to make sure you don't get ganked, or you have to play more passively. On the other hand, if he starts from the blue side, you basically can play more aggressive, or you have to tell your mid and top that they might get ganked level 3 to 4 minutes into the game. It's just a way of knowing roughly where the jungler is, and you know, by just typing something like that and paying them back at like 3 to 4 minutes can actually prevent a first blood and snowball from one lane, and that's, you know, again, increases your win chance. And you might not think it's that much, but over a long period of time, so over like a multitude of games, it actually impacts a lot. So that's something else to think about. Do you sort of get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Is there any questions so far?
No.
Okay, then let us continue here. So you're just CSing right now, keeping your distance, which is a good call. Let's see here. Okay, so Blitzcrank has. Did he start coin? Do you not be? I think he must have started coin because he doesn't have Targon stacks, so which is a little bit weird. Okay. Have you ever thought about the difference between Targon, so the Relic Shield, and a coin start?
The only thing I've really noticed about the difference is whether or not they can hit the minions.
Okay. Actually, right? You know that Relic Shield heals you for a slight amount. When you get the hit up. That's actually quite important because in a non-sustain lane, having some kind of sustain is actually very nice. Over the period of a lane, it probably might give you, I'd say, like 150 to 200 extra HP. So it's basically an extra pot, and that's actually really big. Another thing that it actually gives is extra tank stats, right? So for example, we said at the start of the game, right? You're probably gonna win this lane simply because you can spell shield, Tarek stun. But that was under the premise that both of your supports are equally tanky. So in this case, actually, if Tarek engages on Blitzcrank, right? Since he's so squishy, he will actually take a lot of damage. And then it's actually much more difficult for you to trade. So if Tarek doesn't focus you and just goes on Blitzcrank, you will probably have to overextend to help him, and they can switch their focus on top of you. So that actually makes, and since they have a heal and they have a Targon stack, it actually gives you a pretty big disadvantage coming into lane, simply because they have way more sustain than you have, because Blitzcrank did not start Relic Shield. So that's something else to think of. So that any kind of damage, right, you take in this lane, regardless if it's creep damage or enemy auto attack damage, cannot be healed up. You have your pot and your life steal, right? But you cannot be healed up by any external source compared to Vayne. So if Vayne was to trade with you right now, he will probably come out ahead simply because he can get healed by Tarek. Which means that for this lane, you absolutely have to wait for your E for you to get your E. I don't know if you're gonna get level 2 or if you get your level 3, but before you're aggressive, you must have your E, simply because if you get stunned and they actually trade with you, you will take too much damage for it to be worth it. Do you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see here. So you started E. That's a good call. Let's see here. I'm not gonna comment that much on last hitting, because I think it's more of a thing that you get with experience. And the more you play, the more experience you will get. Okay, that was a bit weird. Let's see what happens. Okay, that was pretty interesting. Okay, let's see here. Let's go back here. Let's see to the start of this fight. So actually, what do you think about this fight? Do you think it was like you guys are playing, or was it that they just fucked up?
Tarek went really way too aggressive and Vayne backed off. So.
Okay.
I don't think it was so much that we played it well, that they just played it really poorly.
Alright, okay. So there were a few things I think that you did actually surprise me, which is in a good way surprise, okay, not in a bad way. Like, what you did was actually really good. And that's something, to be honest, I think that, it's a bit more like plat people think of it, like diamond people think of it, so that's actually very good. It was a little bit of a sloppy fight. Okay, so I will go through, right, what the enemy did wrong, so you can see what they did wrong, and also sort of so that in the future, you have it as a reference, right, that you won't do the same mistake as they did, right? So in this case, you see that your creep wave is pushing towards them, right? As a bot lane who's getting pushed by the creeps, right, you probably never want to engage. This is because you will take way too much creep damage early game. So this Taric sort of goes a little bit too deep on you with this massive creep wave stacked up here, and they it's very difficult for them to fight in this creep wave against both of you. So if we roll this right here, so this is a very nice spell shield from you. The Q, so you want to try to hit Q on both of them to get the maximum damage, but that's fine. And what you're doing is right. You're trying to kite backwards, which is the smart thing, right? Let's see here. Actually, when you are in a scenario like this, so you're kiting backwards, right? And you're not sure. I saw that if we go a little bit backwards, so here, can we slow this thing down? Oh yeah, we can. Let's go to 0.5. So you're kiting backwards, and actually, you sort of see you're not clicking on them. You sort of click this way, and then you sort of had your mouse around here, and you're sort of not doing anything. To avoid that, if you're not comfortable kiting backwards while clicking on the champion, what you should just do is, I think it should be the same for you, so you can shift click anywhere, and that basically means that they will auto attack the thing that is closest to them. Or you can, when you walk backwards, right? So let's say I spam clicking this way, right? So I'm walking backwards, and if you press A and then you click again, it will also attack the person that is closest to you. And in this case, because there are no creeps, you can simply kite that way and maximize your DPS that way. And you will always be hitting someone. You might not be hitting Vayne, but you will always be hitting someone, which is the important part in this case.
I think I have it set so that when I press A, it'll set the attack move to where my cursor is.
Yeah. So the attack move cursor move means basically it will also attack anything that is within range of you, and it will also attack along the way backwards, right? So what you want to do? Have you ever heard of orb walking?
Yes.
So you click, you auto attack backwards. You click, so you click A move, click A move, click A move. This way you maximize your DPS while moving backwards constantly.
Yeah, I think I might have just forgotten to A click when I started moving around.
It's just
I usually almost always use A click.
Yeah. It's good in this scenario simply because there are no external factors. So there's no creep, there are no monsters, there are no wards or whatever. Because sometimes you A move and it attacks something completely weird and you lose the trail like that. It does happen. So in this case, A moving is probably the easiest way to maximize your DPS. Let's see what happens here. So this is what I said. It's a good thing. So you pop your potion. This is definitely the right call. A lot of people don't do this, but they should, right? Popping your potion when you're taking a trade. Truthfully, right? I would probably liked it if you had taken it right around here. So when you were still kiting backwards, if you had popped your potion a little bit earlier. This is because you're gonna take more than 200 HP worth of damage, right? And in that case, there's no point in saving your potion. You might as well pop it, because that extra HP can mean the difference between a kill and death for you. So if you're trading a bot lane and you think you will take a lot of damage, just pop the potion. Okay? And this, you hit both of them, and it's good. And it's good that you're not walking backwards, right? And let's see here. Yeah, it's good that you keep walking forward. I don't think you needed to heal there, to be honest. But it was a little bit more of a safety move, I guess. What I would say, right, is when you use your summoners, right, especially heal, it is not wrong to use it, if you think you're gonna die. But try to save it if possible. Because, for example, right here, right? Let's see if we go a little bit backwards. So right before you pop your heal, so you see Tarek is walking backwards right now, right? And you have the potion running. You see the enemy Vayne, how low he is. This is after they have popped their heal. This means that Vayne will probably not turn back and try to kill you, simply because he will die. Because you have the extra minions to help you, and Blitzcrank is full HP. This means that the only DPS source coming onto you is right now Tarek. And with, you almost have 267 HP. Tarek will not be able to kill you with this HP, because he doesn't have the burst since he's level 2. This means that as long as Vayne does not try to help him, you won't die from Tarek unless Blitzcrank just completely ditches you. This means that you probably don't have to pop heal. This was a little bit more like a panic heal, because you see he lands the stun, right? And you pop the heal, so you get an extra 100 HP, and you sort of walk backwards. But the thing is, he probably wouldn't try to kill you anyway. And you see, after this trade, you have like 400 something HP, but you probably would still have like 200 minimum if you didn't pop heal. Okay, so that's something to think of. When you use your summoners, try to think of, can they kill me? So you don't waste it. Okay? Do you sort of see what I mean?
Yeah, it was probably just definitely a panic heal.
Oh, what's happening? Oh, okay, that was weird. But yeah, it's good that you flash forward to get the kill there. It was a good call. Let's see here, what happens. Okay. Right. Since Chaco is top lane, right? You see him. I don't know if you noticed when you were playing that Chaco was top lane?
I don't know.
Okay. So, you want to be careful of when you... So basically, once you have gotten a kill on bot lane, which is good, and you've used both of your summoners, you have to be careful of the enemy jungler. Because, for example, if Shaco was actually bot right here, you would probably die. You have to be extremely careful when you have both of your summoners down and you're not that healthy and you're sort of low on mana, because you can easily get punished for it and you can die. So you're sort of overgreeding, which some games can cause you to die. When you win a trade, right? Like you just did, and the creep wave is sort of pushing up, like right here. What you actually want to do, since you have 850 gold, right? So what you're probably gonna buy is a pickaxe. So what you want here, right, is just as you're doing right now, you want to push the creep wave. So I would probably throw out the boomerang a little bit earlier, and just try to hard shove this as much as possible. So just get this creep, and then just go back. Like before Tarek shows up, you just walk backwards. And this is simply because you have enough money to get a pickaxe and to get potions. So there's no reason for you to overstay. For example, right now, since you've been sort of overstaying, right, the creep wave, if you just leave it like right here, the creep wave is going to push towards you. So, since you got the kill, right, but you haven't actually gone back, you're not actually stronger than Vayne and Tarek are in lane. Once Vayne shows up, you have the level advantage over her, but item-wise, you are actually behind her. And then you are not efficiently pushing your lane as hard as you can. So that's something to think of. Don't overgreed, especially once you've gotten the kill. So for example, right now you're backing, right? But actually in reality, your creep wave is pushing towards them. So actually this means that you're getting denied a lot more CS than if you had backed earlier. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And also on, you know, like a champion like Silver, I'd probably go for a mana potion. Or maybe like an extra health too, get 3 extra health potions, 1 or 2 mana potions, simply to push as hard as possible, to abuse your lane as much as possible. Because you know you're already winning it. And it's important also to take note of what kind of items the enemy bot lane is got. You know, if Vayne have a Vamp Scepter, or if she went for another Dorn's Blade, because that will impact how you want to play out the lane. Because if she goes for like a Vamp Scepter, right, you don't want her to be able to sustain it up. If she goes for a Doran's Blade, you probably want to be a bit more careful because she has more combat efficient stat than you have. But this is good, you know, you're staying behind, you're not letting him just walk up to you and get auto attack, you're kiting backwards when he walks up to you, which is good. But you see, you come into the lane for like 2 seconds and you have already used half of your mana pool, you know, which is dangerous. You want to, in this case, you know, so if you use your boomerang a lot liberally, you want to use, you want to buy a mana potion to help you. You can't count on Taric stunning you to give you back the mana, because it's not a guaranteed way of getting mana. And you know, as I said, you know, you have to be careful of if the enemy jungler decides to gank you. Right now, you know, you're pushing up the wave, right? You're pushing very hard, but you have no vision of the enemy jungle. So if Shaker was to come out, you know, you could get punished. In this case, you know, I think that you might actually be able to v3 them, and Maokai is bot lane. But you just want to, you know, constantly think of where the enemy jungle is, because a lot of the time what happens is that you get an advantage early game, so you get a kill on the bot lane, and then what happens is that the enemy jungler camps you, and since you are in the mentality, you know, that you are much stronger, you can easily get just completely wrecked by enemy jungler camp, and then you will start tilting, and then you will lose the game because the enemy jungle is camping you. So that's just something to think of. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see if I can slow this one down a little bit. If Vayne comes up to you, it should be here. Right. Okay, so you're stronger than Vayne right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You realize that. This means that if Vayne wants to fight you, you should just fight backwards, because you're stronger than her. In this case, right, Vayne walks up to you and she auto-attacked you, right? So right here, you can clearly see that she wants to get the 3 stacked silver procs. So the silver boat proc. In this case, right, what you should do is you should auto-attack her. You should not auto-attack the minion. You should auto-attack her, and then throw out your boomerang. Auto-attack, throw out your boomerang, auto-attack. Simply because she's already backing off. She's used her tumble, right? She's gonna back off right now. You don't want to let her back off after winning the trade against you. You want to punish her. So what you do is you just walk a little bit back, you A move, auto-attack Vayne, throw out your boomerang, auto-attack her again, and then you won the trade. Because she actually went for a attack speed, a dagger. And she has the exact amount of potions as you. She has a pickaxe less than you right now. So any kind of front 80 damage that you do, you will outtrade her, right? And since you still have your spell shield, you can spell shield the Taric stun. But you want to press your advantage right here, because you have the same amount of potions, right? And you are stronger than her. So you want to trade with her as much as possible, because you have the advantage right now. Do you sort of get what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know, if you have, especially since Vayne is so weak early game, if she wants to trade with you, right, and you're playing Sivir, just go up and trade with her, especially if she's not behind the creep wave. If she's behind the creep wave, you have to think a little bit more if the creep is going to aggro on you, or if your boomerang is going to do less damage depending on the creep wave, the amount of creeps it hit. But if she just walks up to your face like that, you should just take the trade and just keep on auto attacking her, and maybe like auto attack Tarek, get a free auto attack on Tarek too. That's how you use your advantage to win a game, you know, by punishing them for trying to trade with you. So that's something to think of, because you know you are ahead of her, but you still lost the trade because you did not auto attack her. So that's actually something that you should think of more, is that, you know, when should you go for the CS and when should you auto attack the enemy champion. And it's unfortunate Blitzcrank misses his hook, but it's okay. Let's see here. I should probably move this to... Okay. This is actually the coming in the gank, and let's see how this turns out. Can I actually move this one to normal? Okay. This is what I meant with when I said that you guys sort of overextend without any kind of vision. Since you guys are overextending like this, Pantheon doesn't even need to use his ultimate. If Pantheon had actually done man drop down here, you probably would have died. You know, this is when you play Silver, right? It's very, very easy for you to push up the wave because how your abilities work. It's even more important then to make sure that you don't get ganked. Because, like for example, after this trade, you know, you will get zoned, you will lose XP, the enemy will have time to recover, and that's sort of how you can't snowball a game. So when you push up the lane really hard, make sure to keep track on where everybody else on the enemy team is, because it's very, very easy for you to get ganked, and that allows you to get, you know, tilted easily, because you're gonna write like, why didn't you come when the enemy mid lane come or whatever, and that easily allows you to become tilted, and that would decrease your win percentage. Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know, if you're gonna push up very hard, just double check, you know, you have wards, preferably around here. You know, versus the Pantheon, right? You should tell your support to ward, or support the mid lane to ward around here, because if Pantheon man drops from this spot right here, right? This ward is not gonna do anything. You know, Shaco, yes, you can see Shaco if he decides to deceive over the wall, right? But most Shakos will deceive through the lane. So this ward is sort of like inefficient right here, because it's not actually doing anything. It's better to put it like in this tri brush right here. So, you know, if you see that Pantheon is standing, he moves into the mid lane brush, and he's not moving anymore, it probably means that he's jumping bot lane, and then you should just get out of the bot lane as soon as possible. And as you see, as I said, like, you know, since you use your boomerang a lot, you have no mana, and that doesn't allow you to trade anything. Kassadin gets a nice gank off. Yeah. That was a good roam for Kassadin. But yeah, just be careful of pushing up the lane and having no wards, because you can easily get punished by it in a lot of games. And when you use your ricochet, be careful of making sure that you can get the CS. It's actually quite important. Okay, so let's see here. So, you know, you get the kill on Tarek, right? Which is good. And then you're trying to push this wave up right here. So right now, right, you see that the enemy is taking. This is the exact moment that you see the enemy is taking dragon. This also means that you probably should move to Kassadin. It doesn't matter. Well, at least you should move your screen to them, because it doesn't actually matter if they are, you know, healthy or not. What matters is that you know you can make a decision if once you've seen how much HP they have. Because right now, you know, you are farming the wave, but it's better for you to walk up here, and if Cassidy actually needs the help, you can help him. You can provide support. You can provide basically pressure by just being there. And if you just stay here in bot lane, you're sort of allowing Cassidy to get fucked over. Like if both Jaco and Pantheon are really healthy right now, Cassidy will never be able to win this. But if you're 2v2, you have a chance, right? Since you also have healer. And this again, you know, since you have no mana, it's much more difficult for you to help him out. And this is another thing. When you play Sivir, right, it's important that you think of how much mana you're using. Try to not use your boomerang blade just like a lot or to farm creeps, simply because it costs way too much mana to use it for that purpose. You only really want to use it once you get a clear shot on the enemy champions, because of how much mana it consumes. And you know, get 2 mana potions if you can. That will help you a ton in the long run. So for example, right here, you still see them fighting over here, but you haven't actually moved your cursor. You sort of move it once. They're sort of already dead or whatever. You know, it's good. It's important that you have proper map awareness, especially when you see the spam picking somewhere. That's when you want to move. In this case, you know, what the fuck is going on? Oh, you're lucky that Cassidy got the kill and got Dragon, but a lot of the times that won't happen. And then it's, if he dies, you know, and both of them are really low, that's your responsibility to clean up in that case. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's just something else to think of, you know. Making sure that you are there if your team needs you. Because you get basically free kills, and that's quite important. Like Pantheon right there had pretty much 0 mana. So if you had actually gone up, you probably could have maybe killed them because you have healed up anyway. And you know, as I said, try to not use your boomerang to farm because it is incredibly mana intensive. You don't want to use it for that purpose. You only want to use it to poke the enemy champions. So that's it. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. This, you know. What do you think about this? Let me ask you this. What did you think about like this this guy?
It was pretty good. I didn't see Pantheon, although I think it probably could have seen him with the ward though.
Okay, I'll go through it with you and tell you sort of what I think, right? So in this case, you see that Cassidy is going top, right? This means that if Pantheon was to calm down, he wouldn't be able to help you. This is also the exact moment where you see Shaco. Okay, this is the moment you see Shaco on the minimap with the pink ward. I don't know if he's deceived or if he isn't, but you see Shaco right here. This is when you should just bail out, right? Just run. Do not even try to hit him. Just run. And also, this is the time where you pop your ultimate. You've lost vision on Pantheon. You know Shaco is bot lane. This is when you pop your ultimate. Because saving your ultimate at this point won't help you. You want to get out of this situation as fast as possible, and that's why you use your ultimate. So as soon as you see Shaco coming in, and you know, okay, he's gonna get here before you guys can actually get into turret range, that's when you pop your ultimate. So you spell shield the stun, which is nice. You sort of miss your boomerang again, and again, you know, for example, right here, right? You could have flashed a bit earlier. You know, try to flash, like even before that, try to get flashed and get into the turret range. So basically, as long as you get into turret range, that's the main point. So right here, you know, you're saving everything basically until you get into turret range, but you want to blow everything to get into turret range. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
Because Pantheon is also really far behind you right here, because they're chasing you. So like once you see this circle right here, you having these two basically means you're screwed anyway. Since he's exhausted you, Shaco has slowed you. There's no way you're gonna get out of this at this point. Like if you had ulted earlier and flashed earlier, maybe you could have gotten out. At least Pantheon would have had to duel you under the turret. But at this point, and you see, okay, you see the Pantheon ultimate, you're exhausted. At this case, it's probably smarter to save your flash, because you're gonna die anyway. And that's, the worst thing, right, to do is to use your summoners and still die. Obviously, there are exceptions to this. If the enemy blows like 5 flashes for your 1 flash, it's worth it. But it's really bad if you die without using your summoners for anything, so you don't get anything from it, right? And in this case, you see, as soon as you see this circle and you see that you're right in the middle of it, and they're probably gonna chase you, there's no point flashing. Just save your flash. And again, you've sort of saved your ultimate until this point right here. But this movement speed bonus isn't gonna help you because Vayne flashes up. So if you see you're gonna get ganked, right, and you think you might not be able to escape, pop your ultimate instantly. You don't want to save it. There's no point saving it this long, because you're probably gonna die anyway. And also, popping that health potion is another thing you can think of. But be more. If your ultimate, right, is actually just on a 2-minute cooldown. Be more liberal in the way you use it. If you think you might die, just pop it, because Cerberus ultimate is on quite a low cooldown, and it's an incredibly good way to escape. And since you had flash and heal up, you could have definitely have survived this if you had, not saved everything until the last second. Okay? At least you get the 1 kill on Shaco, which is not that bad. Unfortunately, didn't get anything top lane. And if Maokai actually had been here, you might have been able to turn it around. But since he's not, it was not that good, worth it for you guys. And again, get a mana potion and maybe swap up your trinket for the blue trinket. I'm not sure if the blue trinket really helped that much in this game, simply because Pantheon ultimate outranges your trinket. But swap it for either a pink one or a red one or a blue one. Once you've gotten your BF sword, you can pretty much swap it out. There's pretty much a good timing to swap it out. Let's see here. Do you get a kill here? Unfortunately, you don't. Okay. Okay. You probably could have got a kill her if you had spell shield to stun, if I'm not wrong. This was a nice one, and if you had spell shielded at stun, maybe you could run the kill. I don't know. You might have died for it, but again, pop your potion. Don't save it. You do pop your potion, but you do it a little bit late. You want to pop it a little bit earlier. And you could obviously see from that trade, right? You do so much damage to Vayne, and obviously you do have a BF sword right now too, right? But even with the pickaxe, with the boomerang, you will crush Vayne in a kind of trade, as long as she doesn't stand behind like 16 creeps. And that's how you push your advantage. There's a difference between mindlessly pushing, so you're pushing up and you're not, you get ganked and you die, and having a calculated push. You want to be as safe as possible when you push up. So you want to try to get deep wards in. You could tell Blitzcrank to try to ward these spots, or tell your mid lane to ward this spot. Tell you basically communicate with your support where you want wards to be, because most of the time, the supports fail and they have no idea where they're supposed to ward. And then it's sort of your responsibility as the main AD carry to tell them, okay, you need to do this, you need to put down the words here, right? So communicate with your team a bit more and tell them what to do instead of expecting them to know it. When you play solo queue, it's important, right, that you have to take the initiative of shot calling for your team, because you can't trust anybody else to do it, because sometimes people do completely dumb calls. So it's your responsibility, to make the shot calls happen. And let's see here. Okay. Oh, do you get a kill? Oh no. Okay. Again, work a little bit on the direction you throw your boomerang. I'd probably say, like, do you ever smartcast?
Yeah, all my abilities are smartcast.
You could smartcast, right? Because it's a little bit easier. So when you sort of you auto attack, like you try to kite backwards and like this, right? If you just move your mouse in the direction you see them and you throw the Q, right, it might be a little bit easier. It's important to hit the Qs as a spear, because your Q does like 60% of your damage, right? Like right there, if you had hit them, you probably wouldn't have gotten the kill. And it's sort of like kills that you can get and you really don't want to miss, because killing someone gives you gold, gives you experience, and most importantly also denies the other person experience and gold. And so you want to pick up every single kill that you can possibly get, and it's important that you can do it consistently, because that's what's gonna get you to gold, to plat, and etc. So that's something else to think of. Work a bit on your CS. Obviously, you've got ganked twice this game, so it's understandable that you have it a little bit low. But if you have the advantage, like the kind of trading you had with Vayne, you really want to be maybe like 80 CS or so by 11 minutes. Of course, it's completely. It doesn't happen every game, but as long as you are ahead of the enemy laner, it's okay. But you have to remember that if you have 55 CS, right, and the enemy top laner has 120 CS, actually you're not. Even if he's 0-0-0, he actually has the same amount of gold as you. So CSing is your lifeline as an AD carry. As an AD carry, you probably want to hit like 80 CS 11 minutes consistently almost every single game. The reason why like Reckless is really good in solo queue is because even if people do stupid shit all the time, so they like skirmish in the enemy jungler like 3 minutes into the game, he still hits 100 CS by like 11 minutes consistently, and that's why he's such a good AD carry. And the same thing for Forgiven. Maximizing your CS, getting high CS numbers is another crucial thing that will help you in the long run. Okay. And here you should just back off, which is, yeah, this is a good call to just back off. Don't overstay. Once you got into objective, just back off, so you don't die. Boots, and swapping your trinket by like the third back. If you're not extremely far behind, let's say, it's probably a good timing. And Blitzcrank lands a nice hook, and Kassadin greets a little bit and dies. But yeah, let's see here. Oh, and that was a weird flash from Maokai. Okay. Right now, right? Okay, that was a little bit weird.
Yeah. I don't really explain that.
Okay, so you know when you play, when you see the enemy mid laner die, right? You generally just want to push the turrets. Like, remember this: unless you can get a kill almost 100%, or unless you are like, I don't know, like 20 kills ahead or so right now, you probably want to go for the objectives. Because the objectives is ultimately what will win you the game. You know, the kills will win you the game. And like right there, if you had just pushed the turret, maybe you could have gotten it. Since you sort of, you sort of walk down here, you start taking the crab, and then you start back inside. Like, no, I'm not actually gonna take it. And you know that's like wasted time. You want to avoid that. But yeah, remember, turrets are like, if you can get a free turret, you get the free turret. Okay. Because that's what matters in the end. Because the enemy bot lane is taking your bot turret, so it's so important that you trade turrets. Because you are ahead, and you have to make good trades in that case. You don't want to take a bad trade. And mid lane for bot lane turret is generally a very good trade. If I were you, I'd probably greed a little bit and farm the last creeps so you could get the Infinity Edge. Because you were like 100 gold off, but it's not that big of a problem. But yeah, try to if you have the opportunity to go for his objective, like even if you can only get like 300 HP off the turret, like just try to get the turret, simply because chasing is generally not that useful unless you can get the kill, right? It's just something else to think of. Is that dragon bugged? Because I can't see the HP on it. Okay, whatever. Let's see here. And you get the kill. Okay. Okay. The Blitzcrank time. Yeah. That was okay. Let's go a bit earlier here.
I don't think I should have gone around alone, probably.
Well, how do you think you played this?
I think I went a little too aggressively. I should have waited for my team first.
Okay.
So I got chunked down before I could actually play.
Yeah. Is Maokai? No, Maokai's not playing. Yeah, I can't really see it from the shitty graphics. Okay, so there's two things you can really do here. Okay, I don't necessarily think one is better than the other. It depends on how ballsy you are, right? So the first option, it is actually to flash in to the pit right now and heal Catherine and just try to kill Shake or Vayne, right? Because Vayne has already used her Condemn, right? She doesn't have any CC, and I think Tarek also uses that, so they don't actually have any hard CC right now, and you still have your spell shield. So if you actually just flashed into this wall and healed Cassidy, and if Blitzcrank, I don't know if Blitzcrank has flash, I don't think he does actually. You have a chance of turning it around. So that's one option. It's risky, but the reward is quite good, because if Cassidy survives, and both of you try to kill them, like you could maybe 2v3 right at this point, because you are far ahead. You have a lot more gold than they have. This is one option, right? It depends a bit on how much confidence you have in yourself. And the other option is, okay, so what you're doing right here. So if you're gonna do this option, right, it's actually really important that you drop your ward inside to get the vision, because you're sort of walking into blind right now, and you get exhausted, and Blitzcrank is trying to peel for you, right? But it's a little bit weird, right? So if Cassidy is dead and they are not that low, you probably don't want to go in on that, especially if you don't have vision on them. For example, like right there, they had exhaust up, which is a bit unfortunate, because if they didn't have exhaust up, you might have been able to do something. But since they did have exhaust up, it was not a very good trade for you. In that case, I would probably have said, like, in hindsight, right, that flashing into the pit with Kassadin would probably have been the way to go if you wanted to engage on that. Otherwise you have to sort of just give it up. And right here, just pop your ult, just as you did there. And let's see here. Yeah, that was good. So if your team wants to engage as a Seaver, popping your ultimate is the way to go. And yeah, it's good that you don't decide to follow them, because you probably wouldn't get anything from it really, and it's better to push the wave. Try to think of what kind of engages that you want to take. It's hard to say. A lot of the times, right, where people think they're gonna make like massive plays, it's difficult to say if it's a right call or a bad call, right? A lot of like double lift. I don't know if you watch.
Yeah, I do.
NLCS. Double lift basically does a shit ton of bad calls. Most of his calls are really bad. But the thing double lift does is mechanics makes up for his bad calls. So he get out of these really dumb situations by like 3v1 1v3ing like and killing of them and dying, in that, for example, his dragons, if you flashed over, it was obviously the chance that you could outplay them, but it was obviously also the chance that you would probably just die. So that in that case, you have to make a decision of what you want to do. Going in after Kassadin is dead is probably, without a ward inside, is probably a bit risky. But I mean, it's not that big of a problem, I think. But just think of it, when you make an engage, try to think of like what's the chances that you will win. And those, when I say like, okay, try to think of what's the chance of how to win, I don't mean like try to wait like 1 minute and think about it. It should be like a split second decision. Like, do I go in or do I not go in? And do you know Pinoy?
Pinoy?
So he's the AD carry for Gambit Gaming right now. What Pinoy does, and Forgiven too, since for example I played solo queue with him, what he does really good and why he consistently gets quadra and penta kills is because he waits until he makes a decision, right? And that decision is that he's going to wait until the CC is popped on the enemy team. Once the CC is popped on the enemy team, he goes hyper aggressive, right? And that's because he knows that there's nobody that can kill them, and thus he can basically just clean up the fight, right? And in that case, it's actually really important that you think of what kind of engages you want to take. And always rushing in first as an AD carry is not a good thing. It's good to follow up, but it's not good to run in first. Okay? And let's see here. Let's see this team fight right here. Okay. So you see that your team wants to engage right here, right? This is when you should pop your ultimate. Again, if you see your team, and you only see, in this case you don't see, but you can see with the minimap, there are only two. You want to be helping them engage, right? You don't want to wait until your team engage. You want to be the one who actively makes engage. Because right now your ultimate actually doesn't contribute much because you've already caught him anyway. This is another thing right here. So let's slow down this fight a little bit. To this, okay. Right now, you see, you're auto-attacking the creeps. You say that.
I can actually explain that. When I actually played this game, I learned like attack move the day before.
Oh, okay.
And
Right.
I was still trying to get used to it. Attacking creeps like that in all fights.
This is actually, this is what I mean when I said earlier, attack move. There are scenarios where you should use attack move, and scenarios when you should not use attack move. In this scenario, you should not use attack move because it attacks the person that is closest to you. It attacks the enemy unit that is closest to you. And in this case, since it was the creep, you don't actually contribute much, right? In this team fight, right? You are 5-1-4, right? You have 1/4 of your team kills. and you participated in almost 50% of your team kills. You know, you not having any kind of DPS source in this fight is really bad, because you are the main DPS source in your team. If we just roll it, you see Vayne is over here, right? So you know what you should have probably done is right here, you just auto attack the Vayne. You auto attack the Vayne, or you auto attack the Shaco. It doesn't matter which one, because you have a spell shield. So if Cho'Gath tries to Q you, you know you can spell shield it. You probably could have killed Vayne or Shaco there if you had just simply auto attacked them. Even before that fight, to be honest, I would probably say it like this. Okay, you know, you sort of went this way, right? So you walked into the turret range and you flanked from the triber side, from their side, right? It's probably better for you to walk this side. Do you see?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting their entire team, but
yeah,
it's probably not great either.
Yeah, since you have no map vision, it's better for you to play a little bit more safe. So ideally, you know, you'd want to walk this position so your team is there to back you up. You know, Cho'Gath can't flank you, because that team fight was sort of like Cho'Gath flanking you out of the fight. But if you had been this way, it wouldn't have been a problem. You know, just again, when you engage, try to think your positioning. You know, you don't have to be. It's good that you use your ultimate to help to engage, right? But you're not gonna be the one who actually does the hardcore engage. You're gonna give your teammates the tools to engage, but it's gonna be Cassidy or Maokai or Diana who's actually gonna do the engage. That's the thing. You want to use your ultimate to help them, but you don't want to actually be the first one in the fight. You want to be outside. You want to kill high priority targets, and you want to kill whoever is that. Whoever is closest to you, basically. That's not a creep. Okay. So that fight was, you know, probably a little bit more just on a weird positioning that sort of screwed you over. And let's see here. Do you actually die?
I don't remember.
Okay. You had the spell shield up right there. You probably
could have missed it.
Spell shield there. And you know, when you play versus Cho'Gath is such a, what's it called? Such a rare pick, right? You don't really see it that often. Walking this way is probably not that good. Do you know why?
Because there's only when he hits his, what's it called, his knockup, I can't really dodge it in there, can I? Yeah.
So you see, actually, you see this knockup right here. You see, it actually covers the exact whole area. It means that you can't dodge it. You have to stop moving if you're gonna try to dodge it. You have to like hold your position. So you have two choices, right? What I would probably have done is either you go this way to try to get as much area as possible, or you go the other way. And in this case, you know, since your teammates are actually chasing and Maokai is coming towards you, going that way, I don't know, might have saved you, but you know, it's more like you could have probably spell shielded that silence and you would have lived. Because it's difficult, you know, to spell shield silence. It's more of a prediction game, so you have to predict when he's gonna silence you. But yeah, you could have lived there, but it's a little bit difficult. But you know, when you play against a champion who has a area-wide CC like Cho'Gath, you don't want to walk into close areas because you will probably die.
I have a kind of a relevant question, but like in this patch right now on Sivir, do you think that Phantom Dancer or Static Shiv is the better choice?
You do know that Phantom Dancer got buffed, right? So the 5% extra crit chance.
It did?
Yes, compared to before. And I'm not sure if it's this patch or if it was the last patch actually. But IE lost 5% of its crit chance, and Phantom Dancer got another 5%. I would probably say that Static Shiv is better in almost all scenarios that I can think of. Okay. The reason why is because Sivir is a very good pusher, right? She's a very good burster with her Q. So actually having a Phantom Dancer is not going to help you that much. Phantom Dancer is a little bit more for champions which benefit a lot from auto attacking. So sort of like Vayne, you know.
Jinx, would you put one on Jinx, do you think?
I probably would not put one on Jinx either. At this point, right, the thing about Static Shiv compared to Phantom Dancer, right, is that Static Shiv gives you an extra burst. It gives you a little bit more of a, for example, you know, if the enemy team is stacking armor, Static Shifts gives some magic damage to help you DPS. It also allows you to push waves more efficiently, and it is a way better item mid game than Phantom Dancer, simply because of the cost, and also because of the passive, right? You only go Phantom Dancer in very unique cases, in my opinion. I mean, I can't really think of any AD carry which would benefit Phantom Dancer more, except for Vayne. Maybe like a Tristana, maybe, but you know, I'll probably just say, like, as a general rule, just probably go for the Static Shiv. At least this patch. Oh, okay. Let's see what happens. Do you die? Oh, you're so low. Oh, you died. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. So if we turn it back a little bit more. Okay. Do you see? Okay. So do you know what happened this team fight that you think you could have improved on?
I saw Shaco and I didn't really respect it as much as I should have.
Okay. So
because I saw him in the river before.
Yeah, exactly. You saw him and Vayne in the river walking towards Blitzcrank, right? You have to be very, very careful right now. You know, you sort of walk this way, which is a good call, right? And then you sort of walk into his brush, right? This potion was okay. You know, you want to. I've noticed.
I was trying to block the dagger, but I threw it up too late.
Yeah, but you still spell shield the smite, so it's not that bad.
Yeah.
The thing, what I noticed is that you probably really want to try to learn how to smart cast your boomerang.
It is smart casted, I think.
It's not. Do you know how I know? Because if you smart cast it, you won't get that the range thing that pops up.
Oh, I have the range indicators turned on though.
No. When you smart cast something, it instantaneously casts. So, for example, if you actually, let's see here, you can actually see if it's smart. I think, at least, I'm not sure if I'm wrong, but I don't think you can see it. It's just it doesn't actually matter if you're smarting casting it right now or not, but it's something, you know, that you can think of. Because, for example, right here, you see, click, you click. When the indicator comes up, and then you click, and that's pretty much smart casting. If you smart cast, it automatically comes out.
Well, what I do is when the range indicator comes out, I just let go of the button and it shoots. I don't actually click.
Okay, maybe it's smart cast then. I'm not actually sure.
It's smart casted, but it has range indicators. So that's
okay. That could work. But still, so you know, in this fight, right? You have casted it right here, which is good. But what you sort of do a little bit weird is, have you noticed this? Do you see your positioning right now?
Yeah.
You are in melee range against the melee champion. This sort of actually happens. This happened in the last team fight too. You know, as an AD carry, you want to keep your distance.
I usually do, but I just think this was part of the whole still learning how to.
Yeah, definitely. It's also a little bit because you don't have, you know, Shaco ulted, so you actually lost the vision of him, and I think you clicked a little bit into, and then you sort of just walked into it, right? That happens, right? But generally, right, if it's possible, you see Cassidy move it into the brush, right, and Shaco's moving into this brush. Ideally, you'd stand around here.
Okay.
Right. You don't even walk up to the brush, because if you do, this might happen. Because you know Vayne was around here, And you know, if Tarek actually just flashed over and Q'd, E'd you, you'd be dead too, right? There are too many unknown variables for you to walk up this close, especially when your tank isn't even there. Alright? Ideally, you stand around here. Remember when I mentioned Pinoy? So basically, he waits until he has all the information and all the cooldowns are blown before he actually goes hyper aggressive. That's smart calculation, right? If you just walk up like this, you see you don't get any damage off, right? And you flash, and you still die. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
As an AD carry, unless they blow like 3 ultimates on you, you can never be the one who dies first. Right? You can never be the one who gets caught out first. Because you are your team's DPS, and this is especially important. You know, when you play like a comp, like a protected AD comp, your positioning has to be spot on, and it has to be you know, if you're learning how to aim, that's completely fine, right? Everybody has to learn somewhere, but you know, you just have to be able to keep the distance away from them, because you know, you were like 5-1-4, and then you suddenly like 5-3-8, you know, and that's simply because you sometimes you walk up to the melee champions, and you have to keep your range away from them when you play AD carry, because that's like the #1 important thing when you play AD carry. By keeping your range a bit further away from them and maximizing your DPS. It's something, you know, if you want to, you know how some people, I don't know if you've ever felt like this, but I have. It's like when I play AD carry, right, and let's say I'm like 10-2 something, and I still lose the game, and I'm sort of like, well, my team sucks, you know. Normally, it's because you die first in the team fight, because you walk too far up, and you get caught out, and you die. Being, you know, let's say you're like 20-0, right? It doesn't matter if you are in melee range and they all focus you and you die instantly. Like, you're 20-0, your 20 kills and all that gold is useless, right? You absolutely have to keep your distance as an AD carry, and when you team fight, right, the most important thing, you know, a lot of people say is like maximize your TPS and all that shit. Actually, you know, if you're starting to learn how to team fight as an AD carry, #1 important thing is keeping your distance and making sure you're not walking into melee range, right? So when you play, next time you solo queue, or when you play AD or normals, try to think of this. In team fights, instead of trying to just focus everybody, keep your distance and keep an auto attack, so 500 range or so, away from the nearest enemy champion. That's how you play AD carry. But keeping a distance and making sure they can't catch you. You know, if they all try to just tunnel vision on you and try to kill you, your team will kill them because they're trying to tunnel vision too hard on you. But so as long as you don't get caught, you can just maximize your DPS, and basically the enemy team feels like they have to focus you. If you get caught instantly, they can just go and focus another champion, right? And so your team, it's much more difficult for your team to clean up. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that you keep your distance. It's really important as an AD carry, and making sure you don't walk into melee range. Right? How is your time?
So I have to leave for class in about 40 minutes.
Is that you have to leave, or is that you have to?
That's when I have to leave.
Okay. Do you want me to go through the second one, or are you just happy with?
If you want to.
I could. This one is a little bit longer. You're playing Zero again. Let's do it like this. I'll just quickly see what happens in this game. If I can speed it up a little bit. Oh no, I won't speed it up actually. And this is good, you know. You're standing at the brush.
Yeah,
this is
I
what you
normally
should
do. I just didn't really feel safe with.
Actually, another thing which I probably would recommend you to do, instead of standing on this brush right here, is to actually just ward the river. So you walk up, as soon as you finish, walk up, ward the river, and go back, and stand maybe here, because if, let's say, they have a Morgana or they have a hard CC level 1, they could actually catch you out if they walked like from this way here. So you generally you don't want to stand in this brush. What you want to do is you just want to get the vision on the river so they can't invade you. But yeah, it's still good that you're standing here. I mean, they probably usually people don't really invade that much, but it's something to think of. And actually, they invade here. And you see this ward right here, how crucial it is. If you guys didn't have this word, you would have no idea that the enemy team is invading you. So vision early game is crucial. And you know, they are using a Morgana. If they had Morgana queued you over the wall right here, you probably would have to burn a flash, right? So you want to stay in spots where it's extremely difficult for them to hit you with stuff. But this just shows basically how important early game vision ward is. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know what your team is trying to do. Okay. That's pretty interesting. Level 1 fights. Okay. I've not actually seen that Skarner skin before. This is the first time seeing it in game. And you see your support is just completely chunked out. It's not that good.
I think he bases. Yeah, because I think in both videos I end up going to lane alone.
Oh yeah, that's pretty unfortunate. I hope that's not a normal occurrence. That's the only thing I can say.
Not usually.
Yeah. But you know, actually, this is not that bad for you because the enemy is missing. The enemy missed the first 3 melee creeps, and I think the AD carry might have backed. Oh no, he didn't. He's coming here. But he's, you know, you get the solo experience, and the enemy is late, and they didn't take the big the romp, so it's not that bad. I probably won't pause this video, so we could just go through it that way, since you only have 40 minutes left. Is there any questions that you have?
No. You said for the runes though, you said like flat MR blues, armor yellows, attack damage reds, and what was it? 2 attack speed quints and 8
yeah.
quints.
Yeah.
That's what I had last season, and I changed it this season. I don't know.
Why did you change it?
I copied Freak.
Oh.
I wanted to see how it worked.
Actually,
it's actually.
I'm not sure if my rune page is outdated. The reason why I started with attack speed quints is because they changed it. So they buffed the attack speed quints, and I think they nerfed. I'm not exactly sure if they nerfed.
I think it was lifesteal.
Oh, yeah, they nerfed lifesteal, right? So that's why attack speed is actually pretty strong right now. You know what I would probably recommend, right? You know, take my opinion with a pinch of salt. Probably go and search up for a Korean player and see what runes he's running. I'll probably say that's the thing about Freak, right? Is Freak does, like, his theory crafting sometimes is pretty wonky, right? It's not always right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought might as well.
Yeah.
Usually when I watch his stream, he's playing something like Ash, so I don't know.
Yeah, that was a nice spell shield. That was a nice spell shield. Right. Actually, I have to mention this because this is a little bit weird, right? You sort of get chunked out in this spot, which is not that good. You know, when you move backwards and there's a ton of a creep who trying to move inwards, you know, it's more important that you actually just get the CS than actually trying to peel it off your turn. And like right here, you know, that CS right there, if you had not queued it, you would have been able to alt attack it. You see this on the CS. You just missed like 3 waves of CS.
Yeah,
that's
I think
you know, it's fine, right? It's for review purposes, but you know, in the future, be careful when you use your spells, especially when the enemy CS, enemy wave is pushing towards you, because you know you're missing a lot of CS, and it can sort of tilt you. So it's important that you think of it.
I think I was just having a difficult time CSing in general this game.
Know.
I don't know why.
But you know, as I said, like AD carries, positioning, CS, absolutely crucial. That's what makes you a challenge. You know, like a lot of AD carries actually aren't really, like a lot of master AD carry, challenger AD carries, they aren't actually that good at map awareness. What they're really good at is mechanics. and you sort of have the support to cover you for your lack of map awareness. And sort of like right now you're standing a little bit too far behind, and you know, like right there, if you had been right next to him, Ezreal probably would have had to pop his heal, because you would have also tagged, queued him and also tagged, and he probably would have to pop his heal. You know, you don't want to stand too far behind, because then you give your lane opponent too much of an advantage. You know, you want to keep up the pressure in lane without dying, basically, or taking free DPS. Okay. Let's see here. And you know, again, be careful when you use your mana, because I noticed that you like to spam your abilities a lot.
Yeah. I think I should probably. I'll probably stop using my Q to farm so much.
Okay, so you really want to try to stop using your Q to farm, and you know, if you want to, right? If you want to, I'm not sure if it's smart, but something you can do is that you run magic regen on your blues, only maybe like 3 or 4 instead of 4 MRs. Now, if you like spamming, that's okay, but you want to be able to make sure that you have the mana if you need to use it for an engage. And that was a good spell shield, and you heal, which is good.
I think I failed flash somewhere.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep, there it is.
You know, it's a little bit greedy from you, because Garner came in and cleave up the kill, but you know, again, make sure you don't die after you've used your flash. Right, this is really important, because you're wasting it. But yeah. Also make sure, right, do not greed. Don't, please don't greed for kills. I see it a lot. You know, it still happens since Masters and Diamond 1. Do not greed for kills if your team can clean up. I mean, okay, if you're confident you won't die, or if you think, you know, your team might need your extra DPS, you can stay, right? But if somebody's gonna die 100%, do not greed to get the kill. It's important, because a lot of the time, you know, people just overly try to greed and they just, well, they die, and that's not good, because you were supposed to get a 0 for 1 kill, but instead you trade 1 for 1, you know, and you lose the advantage from there. So, you know, you want to make sure you don't do that. And again, you know, try to be a little bit more safe with how you push the lane. Like, if you push the wave, right, just use your W. Your W is more than enough to push the wave. And, you know, make sure you hit your boomerang. Like right here, you could just, she walks way too far up. You could just straight up kill her right there. If you had ulted, and you just would have kited her, and as she moves backwards, you move forward. So you kite after her, she probably would have just died there. If you had been a little bit more aggressive. You know, you see how much damage you do, and it's so important that you take advantage of like all the kind of damage that you basically do. Because right now, like right here, you know, you're really far behind, but you could easily pressure in it, and you actually get the kill. You see, you don't have to stand so far behind, especially when the enemy laners are really low. And the reason why I say this, you know, I told you last game, right, you should be careful of enemy ganks. However, the enemy has a Shamana jungle. Like, a Shamana jungle is like 0 CC. It doesn't have any CC, right? And you have your ultimate. Like, there's no way she's never gonna catch up to you. And another crucial difference is the enemy bot lane is so chunked out. So even if Shyvana was to gank, the enemy bot lane can't go and help her, right? So you won't die, and you can easily turn it around. That's why you can play more aggressive in that sense. You know, if the enemy bot lane is full HP and the enemy, you know, enemy has a J4 jungle, you know, you have to be a bit more careful, obviously. But if they are so low, you can easily just straight up kill them. Okay. And like right there, you probably would have wanted to use the boomerang instead of the W, because you want the kill, right? When you play AD carry, there's no concept of kill stealing. You take every single kill that you can get. It's important, right? if you just, let's say like somebody else does like 99% of the work, as long as you get the kill, right, is worth as an AD carry. You take all the kills you can get, it doesn't matter. Simply because you will be the one who's carrying the game. You have the potential to carry. So you want all the kills that you can get.
I think I played a ranked game yesterday where I got 10 assists before I got a kill on server. That was kind of rough.
It's, you know, the thing, right, is you obviously should never, well, never. You should probably not take the kill on the support if you can give it to your carries, right? And you know, if you play like, I guess if you play like Jax or you know, like Katarina or something, which Magi stacks, you know, you should probably give the kills to them, right? But generally, you take the kills for yourself because you don't trust your teammates to carry. Okay,
Yeah.
There's a difference between, you know, not trusting your teammates and not trusting them to carry. So if you are behind, right, it obviously hasn't happened these 2 games since you won both games. But if you are behind, let's say you die to the enemy bot lane. Let's say you're playing Ezreal right now, right? It's actually more important that you don't die than for you to try to make plays, right? You want to not be a burden to your team if you're behind. So in this case, you know, since you're ahead, you want the kills, but on the other hand, if you're behind, you want to let your team try to carry you. And obviously that doesn't happen every single game, but you know, you have to, as long as you're not a burden to the team and you contribute to the team, your win percentage ratio will also go up. Unlike right here, you know, again, you play a little bit passively. Do you actually die here? No, you don't.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, you have heal. Okay. Oh, nice spell shield. Yep, you don't die. But okay, so I'm gonna rewind this a little bit because this is actually your misplay more than Shresh's. So if I actually, you have to tell me, you know, when you have to go.
Probably in about 8 minutes.
Okay, and then I'll just
leave a little earlier. I probably should have ulted here though. Yeah.
Yeah. Use your ult, you know, and also like you see you were like standing behind here when Shresh engaged, right? You don't want to be there. You want to be next to him. Also, you know, you probably want to flash that binding since you have flash out. Use your flash aggressively, you know, instead of defensively. Shresh misses his play there, which is a little bit weird. But you know, you still have your ultimate, right? You just had a massive 2v2 bot, and you still have your ultimate. Like that's not that good, right? You want to pop your ultimate as soon as possible. But yeah, you know, when you are ahead, it's okay to use your summoners offensively, right? And when you're ahead, do not play really far behind. You want to be pressuring them. You don't want the enemy team to pressure you. You want to be the one who's pressuring the enemy because you are ahead. But make sure you have a good idea of where the enemy team is, so you don't get caught out like in last game, where you got punished heavily for it. And you know, positioning, making sure, you know, like this game your CS is actually not that bad. 70 by 12 minutes is alright. But you know, work a little bit on your CS and probably try to master orb walking. That's another thing.
It's a little bit better now. This was a week or 2 back when I was first learning. I've got it a little bit better.
Oh, that's good. But yeah, orb walking and you know, not using your too much mana on creeps, right? Because you can push the creep wave with W. You don't want to use your Q for the creep wave normally. And as server, using your ultimate a lot earlier. Like your ultimate is not like Graves' ultimate, you know, when you get the kill, where you can use it to KS. You want to use it earlier simply because it gives you that extra movement speed. Okay, and here you spell shit a little bit early, but they don't punish you for it. But yeah, you know, just think of those points, and you know, I definitely think that if you think a little bit more of those points, thinking a little bit more early game, and as I said, like, you know, pre-double, pre-laning phase, what you should think of and stuff like that, I think, you know, you can pretty easily climb back to gold, since you've already been there, right? What you're just doing, what I think you might be lacking is a little bit of the confidence to make plays, and trying to calculate a little bit more. when you make trades and stuff like that. But yeah, be a little bit more aggressive in lane, and just focus on your CS and make sure that you save your mana for the CS. It's probably the biggest points I can give you. But yeah, I think that's about it then, since you have to leave, and I won't keep you here since you have lectures.